Mikvaos based test. Let's start with Tess.
Base test?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. If one arranged jars in a cistern and they're filled with water, although the cistern has absorbed all of its water, he can break them. If a mikveh consists of 40 saw of water and mud, Rabbi Eliezer says one may immerse items in the water, but one may not immerse them in the mud. Rabbi Yeshua says in both the water and the mud. In what mud may one immerse? In mud over which the water flows. If, however, the water was on one side, Rabbi Yeshua agrees that one may immerse them in the water, items in the water, though one may not immerse them in the mud. What type of mud were they speaking of? Mud into which a stick sinks on its own accord. That's what Rameya says. Rabbi Yehuda says a place where a measuring stick cannot stand. Abba Elazar ben Dola says a place where a plumb bob sinks. Reb Eliezer says such that falls through the opening of a barrel. Reb Simon says such that enters the tube of a water skin. Reb Eliezer Mazadik says such that is measured in a log. Yossi says if there are two mikvos, neither of which contain 40 saw, and a log and a half of shuvan fell into one, and a log of half of shuvan fell to the other, and then they became mixed. Their waters are still valid because they were never excuse me, never designated as disqualified. But if there's a mikvah that does not contain 40 saw, and 3 lugam of shuvan fell into it, and then it was divided into 2, the waters remain disqualified because they have already been designated as disqualified. Rabbi Yeshua declares invalid for Rabbi Yeshua used to say any mikvah not containing 40 saw into which 3 lugam of shuvan fell, and then even one quarter was removed, the water is valid because it is short of 3 lugam of shuvan. Shuvin. But the sages say it is forever in a disqualified state until the full amount of the original content flows out plus a little more. Okay.
Okay. So Kate's side, so following on from the previous Mishnah, here's a practical example of how it is that you can fix up a mikveh that got 3 log of mayim she'uvin in the beginning. So there was a hole in the courtyard, and 3 logim of mayim she'uvin fell into it. It stays puzzle. The whole thing has to be emptied out and a little bit more. Or unless you dig another hole of 40 sa'ah next to it, and then dig a channel through between the 40 sa'ah kosher mikveh and the one next door, because then the kosher mikveh will be mataher, the non-kosher one. Okay. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah posel eleim ken pakak. And he says, no, that's not valid unless you blocked it up. In other words, if he blocked up all the way around the bore and also the sides of the ditch that's joining them, until so that it only has openings into the kosher mikveh, because then it's a proper connection. The Chachamim don't agree with that. You don't have to do such a thing, and that's not the halacha. As long as it's connected to the kosher mikveh, then the water inside becomes kosher. Okay, Mishnah Gimel. Borshu male mayim she'uvin. So the whole thing is filled with mayim she'uvin, water from your hose pipe or whatever. V'ha'ama nichneses lo v'yotza mimenu. So now a stream is coming through the yard and hits the bore, and it goes out on the other side. It stays puzzle unless you can say for sure that there's nothing from the original water there's less than 3 login from the original mayim she'uvin. How would you know this? Because so a couple of perushim given over here. So one perush is that you do a cheshbon of the water that leaves the bore is 50-50. In other words, 50% of the water is from the Maim Shovin and 50% is from the water that was coming in. And you can calculate that if it's always 50-50, I mean, you might have to, otherwise you have to do some differential equations and work out, as more water from the bore is coming out and there's less water from the stream, and then that's how I would do it if I were approaching it mathematically. I'd have to do some sort of differential equation to work out as the original water gets less and less, it's going to constitute less of a proportion of whatever is going out. At any rate, you can do the math, and if it ever comes to a practical shaila. Shnayim she hayu matilin mikveh. So there were two guys pouring water into the mikveh. Each one has got 1.5 logs of obviously drawn water, and each one is pouring in separately. Okay, hasochet is kasuso. Or somebody is squeezing out his clothes that were wet. Umatel mimikomos harbe, and it's dripping out from many different corners of the garment. Mare min atzarzur. Atzarzur was a key that we saw in Kalim that had a sort of a lip that was had spikes in the lip that caused it to sprinkle and not all come out in one stream. So what's in common between all these cases over here is that the source of the Mayim Shuvin is coming from different places. Okay, it's not all in one stream. Okay. Rabbi Akiva machshir v'chachamim poslin. Chachamim said that's no different from having one stream, but Rabbi Akiva says no. And he's got a specific lamdas. Amar Rabbi Akiva lo amru matilin ela matil. The Chachamim said that it's talking about that the mikveh is kosher. When Chazal said that Mayim Shovin pasels a mikveh, they spoke about it in the singular. In other words, that it has to be a single stream. But if it's multiple streams, they don't count together. Amru lo kach v'lo kach amru. They didn't say any such thing. All they said was it's a passive thing. That if 3 logim of Mayim Shovin came in from anywhere. So the halacha follows the Chachamim, not Rabbi Akiva. It doesn't matter what the source is, how many people were pouring in water. If it's 3 login, it's 3 login. Okay. Now Mishna Dalet mikli echad mishnayim umishlosha mitztarfin. So carrying on the opinion of the Chachamim, doesn't matter if it's 1, 2, or 3 kalim that are pouring in all of these different things. But me arba'a in mitztarfin. If you've got 4 different kalim, each one with less than a log, obviously. Well, at least one of them has got less than a log. At least 2 of them have got less than a log, if you do the math. So ein mitztarfin, they do not join together to pasal the mikveh because you don't have a log in each kli. Okay, so each one is so some of them are considered insignificant. Balkeri hachole. So let's say you've got a Balkeri who is sick and he was unable to go to the mikveh, but he wanted to be matar himself. Shenaflu alav tisha kabin mayim. Now that's one of the ways that a person who can't get to a mikveh can be matar himself. And that was actually what a lot of people did during Corona when they couldn't go to the Mikvaos before on Erev Yom Kippur, is you just have a long shower. So until you measure that 9 kav of water have fallen on you, that's good enough b'diavad for a Balkeri. Or a taho person who got this on his body 3 logim of Mayim Shovin, which causes a tumah derabanan. Mikli echad mishnayim umishlosha mitztarfin. If it comes from 1 kli or from 2 or 3, they count together. Me'arba enan mitztarfin. But if it's 4 kalim, they don't join together. In other words, if you put the 4 kav on the Balkeri from 1 or 2 or 3 kalim, they count. But if it's 4, they don't count together to the 9 kavim to be matar the Balkeri, and not 3 logim to be matame the tahor. Okay, so as soon as you split something into more than 3 kalim, so it appears that it's not just about the 1 log in each thing. There's something about 3 kalim is counted together. 4 is already starting to get it gets to the point where you can't join together the amounts. But medvarim amorim, when is the stated bisman shehizkil hasheni ad shelo pasak harishon? And this only is true when when you're talking about the three kalim coming together, or the two kalim coming together. It's only talking about when the second one started before the first one had finished. So then you can join together the two streams because they were overlapping. But if they're one after the other, when one had stopped, then you can't join them together at all, even if you've got less than four. And when are you talking about the four not joined together? Bisman shelonis kavin lerabos. This is when you're talking about. So this is getting back to the subject of the mikveh. If we said if that four kalim don't join together, so if he spilled a log, and then he spilled another half a log, and then he spilled another half a log, and then he spilled another log. So now you've got your three login, but they were all separate, and that doesn't puzzle the beginning of the mikveh. But that's only if he didn't intend to add it up. About in this kaven lerabos, if he had intention to keep adding bit by bit, אפילו קורטה בכל השנה מצטרפים לשלושה login. So if he came every day with a teaspoon and dropped some water and thinking, you know what, it won't add together to make my shuvin, so that he has an easy way to fill my mikveh, I'll just take a teaspoon every day, and they won't add together. And the answer is they do add together because that was his kavanah. Okay, that's it.
The Haros.
Haros, yep.
Okay, you Dalit. One who places grapes taken from the baskets and from the expanse on the ground on the wine press. Beis Shammai says he must put them in the wine press with hands that are tahor. And if he puts them in the wine press with hands that are tummy, he has rendered the grapes tummy. Beis Hillel says he may put the grapes in the wine press with hands that are tummy, and he may still separate the truma in their tahara. If one took grapes from a basket and from an expanse on leaves, everyone agrees that he must put them in the wine press with hands that are tahor. And if he puts them in the wine press with hands that are tummy, then he has rendered his grapes tummy. One who eats grapes taken from baskets from an expanse on the ground, even if the grapes are cracked and the juice is dripping into the wine press is tahor. If the grapes are from a bucket or from an expanse leaves and a single grape fell into the wine press, if the grape has a seal, the wine press is tahor. If it does not have a seal, the wine press is tummy. Excuse me. If a cluster of grapes fell from him and he pressed them into an empty place on the wine press, if the cluster consists of precisely the volume of an egg, the wine press is tahor. If the cluster consists of more than a volume of an egg, the wine press is tameh. Where as soon as the first drop of juice came out, if it was rendered tameh by the volume of an egg. Okay. All right, that's that.
Also, Vav.
Did I just do Vav?
No.
Oh, I did. I'm sorry. If someone was standing and talking on the tin of a pit of wine and saliva spurted out of his mouth, and there's a doubt whether the saliva reached the pit or did not reach the pit, the certainty is ruled tahor.
Okay, that's it.
Oh yes, para. The saddle baskets and the turban bell, the saddle baskets and the tarbell bed, and the horn of a coffin, and the horns of travelers, and the rings of kings, and the basket of the soldiers, and a garment that is stitched with kalayim are considered a connection for tumah, but not considered a connection for sprinkling. The cover of a kettle that was attached to a chain, Beis Shammai says it is considered a connection for tumah, but not considered a connection for sprinkling. Beis Shammai says if one sprinkled on the kettle, the cover that has been sprinkled upon as well. If he sprinkled on the cover, the kettle has not been sprinkled upon. All are eligible to sprinkle, except for tumtum and
Hermaphrodite.
Right, and a woman who does not have awareness. A woman assists him and he sprinkles, and she holds the water for him and he dips and sprinkles. If she held his hand even during the sprinkling, it's invalid. If one dipped the hyssop of day and sprinkled by day, it is valid. By day and be sprinkled at night, and if he sprinkled by day, it is not valid. By himself, immerses at night and sprinkles by day, since we did not sprinkle until sunrise and all of them have acted from dawn, it is valid. Okay.
Okay, and that's until dawn. It's that. Yeah, that's it. And Hadran Alach Maseches Para.
And tomorrow we start
Taros again.
From the beginning.
Taros.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, so I'm sorry.
Tohoros.
Taharos. So start from the beginning. Taharos. Okay.
Okay, Ohalos.
Olav Yud Vav. If there is a skylight in the roof of the house and a pot is placed beneath the skylight so that the pot was placed, its edges would not touch the roof surrounding the skylight, and there is two below, inside, or above the pot, the tumor penetrates upward and downward. If the pot is 1 handbreadth above the ground, and there is tumor below or inside the house, the area below the pot and the inside of the house becomes tame. But whatever is inside the pot remains tahor, and if the tumor is inside or above the pot, every remains tame. If the pot was placed on a threshold in such a way that it raised it would extend over the or out a handbreadth of the lintel, and there is tumor below, inside, or above the tumor penetrates upward and downward. If the pot is 1 handbreadth above the ground and there is tumor above it, below it, or inside the house, the area below the pot and inside the house becomes tame, and whatever is inside or above the pot remains sahu. If the tumor is inside the pot, inside or above the pot, everything becomes tame. And if the pot was placed on a threshold, so that if it was raised up, it would not touch an outer handbreadth of the lintel, or touching the side of the lintel, there is tumor underneath the pot, and only what is below the pot becomes tame. If the roof of a house is split and tame is in the upper part, utensils that are in the inner part remain tahor. If tumor is in the inner part, Shammai says the split must be before handbreadths wide for the outer part to remain tahor, whereas Beis Hillel says it remains tahor even if the split is very small. Yoshi says the name of Beis Hillel, a handbreadth.
Okay.
Beis Hay. If one slaughters an animal, a beast, or a bird, and no blood has come out of it, they are kosher, and they may be eaten with mutually contaminated hands, since they have not been susceptible by blood. Rabbi Shimon said they have been made susceptible by the slaughtering. If one slaughters a dying animal, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says it is not valid unless it jerks a foreleg and a hind leg. If Eliezer says if it suffices, if it spurts forth blood. Rabbi Shimon says also one who slaughters at night and rises early the next day and finds the walls full of blood, it is valid because it spurted blood, which is in accordance with Eliezer's opinion. The Chachamim, however, say it is not valid unless he jerks a foreleg or a hind leg, or unless it wiggles its tail. The same rule applies both to small animals and to large animals. A small animal that stretches out its foreleg but did not draw it back, it's invalid because it is only an indication of the expiration of life. When this applied, if it was presumed to be dying, but if it was presumed to be healthy, even if it has none of those signs, it's valid. If one slaughters for a Gentile and slaughtering is valid, but Rabbi Eliezer class is invalid. Rabbi Eliezer, even if the slaughter is, even if he slaughtered it so that the Gentile should eat from his diaphragm, it is invalid because the unexpressed extent of a Gentile is presumed to be for idolatry. Yossi says the matter can be proven by a fortiori reasoning. If the place where the intent renders invalid, in the case of sacrificial animals, everything depends entirely on the one who performs the service. A place where intent does not render invalid, in the case of sacrificial animals, it is not logical that it should be depend all solely upon the slaughter. If one slaughters as a sacrifice to mountains, as a sacrifice to hills,
We're done here.
oh, okay, it's good. Okay. On to Nazir. Nazir Vav Zion. When is the procedure of head shaving in Tahara? He would bring 3 animals, a sin offering, a burnt offering, and a peace offering. Slaughter the peace offering and stay upon it. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. If Elazar says he did not shave his head except on the slaughter of the sin offering, because the sin offering takes precedence on every occasion. However, he slaved his head on any of the other 3, he has discharged his obligation. Shimon ben Gamliel says if he brought the 3 animals that did not specify, the 1/5 of the sin offering is offered as a sin offering, the 1/5 of the burnt offering is offered as a burnt offering, and the 1/5 of the peace offering is offered as a peace offering. He would take the hair from his head of sincerus and cast it under the pot. If he shaved his head in the provinces, he would cast it under the pot. In regard to what is said, in regard to the head shaving in Tahara, but for the head shaving in Tuma, he did not cast his hair under the pot. And Rameya says all Nazirim cast their hair under the pot except for the one who was Tameh who shaved in the provinces. He cooked the peace offering or overcooked it. The Kohen takes the cooked offering of the ram and 1 unleavened loaf from the basket and 1 unleavened wafer, and places them on the palms of the Nazir and waves them. After this, the Nazir becomes permitted to drink wine and become tummy over by the dead. Reb Shimon says once one of the bloods was withdrawn from him, the Nazir becomes permitted to drink wine and becomes tummy from the dead. If he shaved his head following the sacrificing was found to be invalid, the shaving is invalid, and sacrifices do not count for him. If he shaved after a sin offering, which was sorted but not for the designated purpose, and then he brought his offerings for the designated purpose, the shaving is invalid, and the sacrifices do not count for him.
Oh, hold on. Oh, beg your pardon. I lost track. You're on Yud now. That's
Love
we're
you.
done. We're already done. Okay.
I went too far. Sorry.
Are you in Yud?
I was in Yud Vav.
Vav Yud.
Vav
Okay.
Yud.
Yeah, okay, no, Yud is for tomorrow. Okay, and let's go. Let's finish Orla.
Okay. How so? How so? If the nuts split, the pomegranate is burst open, the jars open, the gourds were cut, or the loaves were broken up, they are avoided 1 in 200. Doubtful Orla and Eretz Israel is forbidden, but in Syria is permitted, and in foreign lands he goes down and buys, provided only that he does not see them and gather. If vegetables are planted in the vineyard, the vegetables are sold outside it, in Eretz Israel it's forbidden, but in Syria it's permitted. And in foreign lands he goes down and gathers, provided only that he does not gather by hand. Hadash is forbidden by Torah law everywhere, and Orla is by halakha, and halayim is by rabbinic law.
Orla, and one Mishnah from Bikurim.
Some bring Makorim and recite, but some do not recite, some do not bring. These do not bring. He who plants into his own, he who sinks a shoot into that of an individual or the public, and likewise he who sinks a shoot from that of the private or the public into his own. He also plants into his own and sinks a shoot into his own, and the private or public row is in between, such as one does not bring, but Yehuda says such as one does bring.
Okay, I'd come.
Okay.
And I'm gonna run.
Thank you, John. Bye. See you tomorrow. Thank you.